All right, let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, a few days ago, the Cowboys made one of the biggest moves the entire offseason when they traded for wide receiver George Pickens from the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think most people at this point who at least have one functioning brain cell call this a big win and a smart deal for the Dallas Cowboys. But when you dive deeper into the numbers, this move actually looks even smarter for Dallas in terms of a risk mitigation perspective. We'll get into that analytics in just 1 second. But first, I'm Nick, that is Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys picking up George Pickens, obviously he's going into the last year of this deal. The Cowboys sent a third rounder to Pittsburgh for Pickens. So when you look at what the Cowboys have given up here, people kind of wonder, well, what's the risk reward? What's the value versus what you've received? And when you dive deep into the data, it's clear the Cowboys basically took on George Pickens, a potential Pro Bowl All-Pro receiver, to pair with CeeDee Lamb at a position of need with statistically zero risk. Let's get into these reports, and then we'll explain what I mean by that on the other side. So let's pull up our first tweet here. This is courtesy of Spot Track, a great person to follow, or great account to follow, I should say, on Twitter or X or whatever the kids call it these days. From the Post, per Tom Pelissero, the Cowboys will acquire George Pickens from the Steelers. The 24-year-old, here's the important part, brings a one-year, $3.6 million contract to Dallas, carrying a four-year, $102 million, $25.5 million APY valuation in our system. So keep that $25.5 million APY in mind. So obviously the Cowboys, some other picks changed hands, but they basically traded a third-round pick for George Pickens, okay? So think about that as we go into our next image here, and we look at the formula when it comes to compensatory picks. So compensatory picks, for those of you who aren't familiar, are awarded to teams when free agents leave a roster. A starter, a guy who plays a lot, leaves a team, signs somewhere else. The NFL awards compensatory picks, so that way the team can then draft replacements. That's how the NFL works. And if you look at what a selection by round in terms of what a team will get, whether it's a third-round pick, a fourth-round pick, fifth-round pick, sixth-round pick, seventh-round pick, or whatever, you need to be in the top 5%. You can see that on the far right in terms of salary, right, at your position. So if a team loses a player who's in the top 5% of salary, they'll get a third-round pick. That's basically what that's saying. Let's go into our final chart here to highlight exactly what I'm talking about. So remember that $25.5 million valuation, right? If you look at, these are the top now receiver contracts on an average per year basis. That's all the way on the far right, that in the NFL. Where that arrow is pointing is exactly where Pickens would be based on SpotTrack's valuation, which is a pretty accurate measurement. They do a pretty good job. So going down the list here, you can start at the top and count. You go Chase 1, Jefferson 2, Lamb 3, and then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You'd be around 11-ish in the National Football League. How many receivers are there in the National Football League? A little over, when it's all said and done, 200, right? Obviously, it fluctuates based on the year. So based on that number, about $25.5 million, a little over 200 receivers, we're basically looking at a situation here where George Pickens' contract, if he were to leave Dallas and sign somewhere else, would be at that magical, based on his valuation now, 5% threshold. So what would the Cowboys get in return if he leaves Dallas next offseason? A third-round pick. So they essentially traded a third-round pick, and if Pickens leaves next offseason, they will get a third-round pick. They essentially took on virtually zero risk in terms of draft capital to get a Pro Bowl player for 1 year. Now, let's say Pickens stays in Dallas. Great, it's awesome. You got a great long-term receiver. Let's say Pickens is a disappointment. Well, maybe you can re-sign him for nothing next offseason, or maybe he can go away for nothing. And look, you end up out of pocket a little bit. It doesn't hurt the long-term trajectory of your franchise. The reality here is Pickens won't be a disappointment. If you look at his performance with the Steelers, he was a good player as much as he had some issues with the team every single week that he performed, right? He is a star physical receiver. We all understand that. So from an on-field perspective, I think everyone knows he's going to be a good player because he's proven that every step, every season he was with the Pittsburgh Steelers. If he decides to leave, the Cowboys get a third-round pick. No harm, no foul. They literally picked up Pickens for a year for virtually nothing. If he stays, they got a great long-term receiver. This is great general manager. I don't know if this is Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, Will McClay, whoever, the entire organization. This is what you do. The ultimate risk mitigation, the ultimate understanding of the environment. The Cowboys here pulled off one of the great deals I've seen in the offseason for any team. Low risk, high reward, phenomenal job by the Cowboys front office. Miles, I know you've got a few thoughts on this, but first, Cowboys fans, in the comment section below, now that I've given you some more clarity, a little more information on this deal, how would you grade? And now that you've had some time to maybe digest it a little yourself, how would you grade this trade, right? Do you think it's an A plus? Do you love it? You still a little disappointed, want to wait and see a little bit? Maybe it's a C plus, or maybe you hate it for some reason. I don't know. Maybe you got a good reason. Let us know and think it's a D trade. Give us your grade of this Cowboys trade now that you have some more information in the comment section below. But Mize, over to you now. What are your thoughts now that you've seen the data on the Cowboys picking up Pickens?
Yeah, Nick, I think the Cowboys getting Pickens is, like you said, at best, it's probably one of the greatest moves of all time, and at worst, it's very low risk. This guy has the potential to be as good as a CD Lamb, but he's physically gifted. He's 6'3", big wide receiver, about 200 pounds. He has all of the physical tools to do everything, and he showed it that he can do it at an NFL level. So I think fantastic pickup by the Cowboys here, and I think it's going to do very, very well. There's a couple things, though, that I think that people may not have followed the Steelers, may not have followed George Pickens as closely, and for good reason, because they haven't been great the last couple of years as far as they really just haven't done anything big. So people might not have paid attention to exactly what's going on in Pittsburgh. But there's a couple of factors that the Cowboys bring to the table that I think is going to get the best out of George Pickens. First off, is the Cowboys have a number one receiver in CeeDee Lamb finally to pair next to George Pickens. George Pickens has never had that type of talented number one receiver next to him. We say the best guy he's had is Deontay Johnson, who I don't even know if he's like starting on any teams in the NFL this year anymore. So CeeDee Lamb far, far and away better than Deontay Johnson. I think George Pickens coming in here, having a solid number one wide receiver next to him is going to boost that production. It's going to make it easier for Lamb. It's also going to make things easier for Pickens. So I think that in itself, really great move, really great place for George Pickens to be in. And number two, the Cowboys have far better quarterback play than the Steelers have had in the last 3 to 4 years. This Steelers team has not been able to hit on the quarterback position. Maybe they did with Will Howard. We'll have to wait and see. But they have not been able to get the quarterback position right for the last few years. Dallas, as much as people are hot and cold on Dak Prescott at times, he is far and away better than any quarterback the Steelers have had. So, in my opinion, I think this is the perfect situation. I think this is going to make George Pickens happy as far as he's set up better than he ever has been or probably ever will be before. Just as far as for him to succeed, for him to go out and do the things that he wants to do, I think this is going to be a perfect offense for him. I think it's going to be the perfect kind of team for him to be in, and just everything fits. But for the Cowboys' perspective, getting back to the genius of this deal, low risk. I mean, if he decides to walk, they can't get a deal done. He goes to another team. They recoup any investment they put into this. That's absolutely fantastic. At worst, like you said, they keep him. He's still talented. Maybe they get something to figure out at the end, or they could just flat out keep him and sign him to the deal himself and really have gotten fantastic player that is going to do a lot of great things for this offense. So I think just overall, there's not a losing play here for the Cowboys unless he like burns down the stadium or something crazy goes off with George Pickens. There's really no way that they can lose on this trade. I think the George Pickens move was very smart because, like we said, at worst, if this guy, goes off, really wants to leave, go test the market, see how much money he can get, you still recoup your investment. I don't think that's talked about enough, but I think this is a really, really smart move by the Cowboys.